Liftoff in 3, 2, 1.
If anybody's watching, I guess I better say welcome to the Body Mind Index. I'm your host, Jerry Pujals, and I am sitting here today with the fabulous Coach Amber with MetPro. I'm just gonna tee it up and let you talk a little bit about yourself, Amber, because I know your background is robust, and I also learned in getting to know you a little bit that we have been to similar places in Florida before, and you had actually, I think, maybe even interviewed to a boarding school that I attended. And when nobody ever knows where Montverde Academy is. And the fact that you knew that just blew my mind. And the fact that the caliber, when I knew early on is that if you can interview there or you can do that type of work with such an exclusive place, not that I'm exclusive or bougie by any mean, but my dad literally went broke to put me in that school. It was something different in my life experience. But please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry, and thanks for having me on. So I'm a sports dietitian. I'm also a certified personal trainer, and I'm working on getting my strength and conditioning specialist certification right now as well. And then hopefully one day I will also take the boards to become a certified specialist in sports dietetics. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now, but I've worked with such a variety of clients. I've worked with professional athletes, college athletes, everyone from, busy professionals, busy moms, all sorts of varieties, lifestyles, people coming from all different places. And, I'm a mom myself. I have a 2-year-old, and we live in Florida now, which is crazy. When I first interviewed for that job for Montverde Academy, we were still living in Georgia. And so it makes it even crazier that that's where you went, and somehow we ended up here.
Yeah, totally. And I was just telling my wife a little while ago, I still fantasize about this idea of, we've been working together for a few months now through MetPro. And that was interesting because MetPro, I found out, can I talk about MetPro?
Yeah, go for it.
Because if not, we'd have to delete this and start over.
Go for it. I love talking about MetPro. See,
Yeah,
repping it here.
I kind of noticed that was up there, so I felt very comfortable. Yeah, I was listening to Trail Runner Nation. I love those guys and what they put out there. And then the CEO of your company was being interviewed by them. And I thought, well, I've been through such an interesting journey to me as far as my weight loss and improving my health over the last probably 15, 16 months now. And I listened to that, and a lot of the things made sense, but like everybody, I'm not in a box. I'm not a one size fits all and all that. So I just thought, well, at least let me try that, because I've had a coach. I've been a business coach myself before to people in my profession and things like that. And I do believe in coaching, and I do believe that we can certainly level up by having somebody pick out or pull out our blind spots, right? Because we can't see things often. So I'm just so grateful that this whole experience led me to you. Going back to my fantasy was that you and your husband one day can come to Napa and we can hang out.
We'd love that.
Because on purpose and by design, we are starting to build a little bit of a community of people that really care about their health and really care about, and they see their health as their wealth. There's a period in life where people like me, now 57 years old, you focus so much on raising the kids, you focus so much on making money and things like that to support all the experiences that you want to pay for. But then we forget, and we lose the scales start to falter, right? And then one gets overweight, one starts to become more immobile, one starts to wonder, wow, I guess this is the way it is. This is life in your 50s. And and you start to sort of surrender to that type of thinking. And once I realized that that it wasn't so. By surrounding myself with just a handful of people, one of them was I give him a lot of credit, John Stewart, who was my physical therapist slash trainer at the time, and very close friend, also happens to be the husband of the woman who runs my accounting. And again, just the way they do everything, the way they do their accounting, the way they live is so imbalanced that I never knew of such a thing, of living that in balance with your finances as well as your nutrition as well. So right now, I've sort of over the last year and a half, I've cleaned house. I have the cleanest P&L I've had in 25 years of a very successful real estate practice. But they have also helped me realize that they both go hand in hand, because once you clean up your health, then other things start to come together. You really have to start with yourself first. And that's why I'm so happy that these roads led to you. And then you and I the other day were talking about, I know I sent you a list of questions, and I know you can already sense of, oh shit, where's this going? Because this is probably not it.
You're good. I'll roll with the flow. Just go for it.
Okay. So we'll get to some of those questions, I'm sure. But I'm just fascinated as to your MetPro has a model, and it's a model, I think, primarily designed for people that want to increase their performance, endurance, strength, all those things through nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And that made a lot of sense to me, because I want to do these. I have these big goals, right? I told you I'd love to, by the time I'm 60, I'd love to do an ultra marathon, and that requires learning how to fuel yourself. And those are big goals. But right now, I tried doing Mount Whitney, which I've done from the other side before, but I tried doing it in the snow 6 months ago, and it wasn't successful. But I'm very proud of the fact that I made it. Instead of climbing 6,000 feet, I climbed 5,000 feet. I made it 1,000 feet from the top, turned around, and that was an 18-hour hike.
That's insane.
Yeah, and for a guy that was ready to surrender
Right.
a year and a half ago, it shows you how surrounding myself with people like you is the biggest gift I've ever given myself. So that's why that, again, I go back to that fantasy of having you guys come over. It's sincere. I love to spend more time and getting to know you guys. And I think your husband is active as well. And
He is.
Right?
Yep. So we actually met kind of through the health and fitness world. So when we were hanging out with some mutual friends, and we were actually at the gym, and that's how we met. He was looking for someone to help. He wanted to lose weight, but he also wanted some guidance on strength training and how to improve his health. And so we started working together, and it just blossomed into a really good friendship. And then it turned into a relationship after that. And now we've been together for 11 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, so Susan and I did the opposite. We just kidding. I'm just kidding. I live with somebody who's always been very fit and never struggled with weight or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But through my struggle, and I had a podcast about this. I was on Chef AJ's podcast, and I'm gonna guess you don't know who that is, because that's kind of probably far removed from your world. But Chef AJ is somebody that really does a great job helping people with, and primarily food addicts, on how to eat nutritionally dense rather than calorically dense.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Yeah, but through that process, I learned that my wife struggled with weight in a different way, because she had symptoms of anorexia when she was 17, and she's 5'7" and got down to under 100 pounds. So it was very scary for her.
Yeah, and it's very common. Like, a lot of people think that just overweight people are the ones that struggle or have that mental battle, but even the skinniest people or the fittest people, we all have our own struggles or battles in some form. And a lot of people just don't think that way. But I can see it both directions now. I've always been more of the fit one. My husband has struggled with weight, but yet we both have our own struggles in a sense.
And where do you meet, right? Because they're different.
Exactly. Totally different. The approach is different, but in a way it's kind of similar, because you just have to change your mindset, and you got to change how you think about food, how you think about exercise, and you really just got to prioritize what it is you want in life, where you're trying to go and what you're going to do to get there.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I'm so glad that I've at least started to connect with that, and that, Susan and I can both have oatmeal, but I sneak a couple of tablespoons of melted almond butter in it. And what I find fascinating is that she loves it. I'm not sneaking it in there. She knows I'm doing it. But what I find fascinating, and then she's able to hold on to her weight, and I'm not holding on to mine because I'm not making something as calorically dense, and we're enjoying the same thing in a different way.
Right. 1000%.
Yeah, it's a beautiful connection, and I think you can't get there without doing the work.
Agreed.
I've been dying to share something with you about this morning.
Okay, tell me.
So this morning, I got up like a lot of people that think about doing some movement. And, a lot of times I don't pre-plan what my movement is going to be. I don't make it hard on myself. I don't give myself a very stringent box, because I don't like to live in a very stringent box. Like, and I understand that it's not optimal, but I'm not looking for optimal. I'm looking for enjoyment, fun, and more fluidity, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So last night I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow because it might rain. I don't know. So I don't know what the weather's going to be like in the morning here right now. So I don't, and they talked about an atmospheric river, so, and I am the guy that I don't mind going out and running in a blizzard. Sometimes that's what I want to do. I need that challenge and I want that challenge, but it all depends on how I wake up that day. And I've learned from you that a lot of those things have to do with how I nourish myself a day or two prior. And I really connected with that on a trip that I just went to Vegas, where my buddies and I went to eat and Italian food. And if you can believe this, I ate because I couldn't eat anything else on the menu. I literally ate for dinner an entire pound of pasta. An entire pound of pasta. The server couldn't believe I ate an entire pound of pasta with balsamic vinegar and red chili peppers, and it was freaking delicious. It was delicious.
It is.
But what was interesting is that not the next day, the day after, I went on a 20,000 step walk with my friend, a fast walk. And after the 20,000 step walk with my friend, I'm sorry, I digress with the story. On the 20,000 step walk, my friend, I thought of you because the energy kicked in after that walk, and I had to go for a run. And I ran only 2 miles, but I ran too fast, very fast for me, very fast 2 miles.
That's awesome.
I felt, Coach, like I was flying during those 2 miles. It was the most exciting, and it connected to so many of the conversations that we've had of you have to understand and you have to listen to your body. And if you can listen to your body, I knew that night I had to eat that way to keep myself from really struggling with, tiramisu flying in front of me and veal parmesan and everything going on, and wine and everything that I'm not doing, that I cut out because frankly, I wanted to, but I still got to have so much fun with them, enjoy the time. And I didn't waste that energy sitting on a couch. I went on a beautiful walk with my friend, talked for 20 minutes on a fast walk, to only find out on a 20,000 step walk, which, 20,000 step walk is about 8 or 9, maybe close to 10 miles. And at the end of that, all of a sudden the energy kicked in and I wanted to run. I didn't want to go back to my hotel room in Vegas.
Isn't that amazing? When you fuel well and you give your body the energy it needs to perform, like our bodies can do so many great things. And a lot of us just aren't able to tap into that because a lot of people just don't know, or they're afraid to kind of tap into that space. So I'm really glad you experienced that.
Well, and I got to tell you, I hope, as they call the C-suite of meaning the CEO of the company gets to listen to me talk about you, because what you were able to do, it's outside of your model. and I'm a business guy, so I can see that. And what you were able to do is way outside of your model, which and again, maybe they get some of the credit by training you this way, but I think your modality and the way of doing things and how you listen to me was very special. And what I needed wasn't the box created by MetPro. What I needed was the coach brought to me by MetPro, and that changed a lot of things for me, because what happened is a lot of times the sessions that and I have had, which by the way are quick and efficient, because I don't like long coaching sessions. They suck my soul, and as a coach, a guy that has been a coach, they suck the coach's soul as well. By the way, people, when you're just there taking from a coach, because the coachee needs to be a great listener, and has to listen for those words, and then you have to replay it back in your head, and then it comes up when it has to. And that's what you've been. You've been an encyclopedia that when I'm out there on the road running or hiking, then I pull something out that you just in passing said to me that was very, I should say, effective. So I'm very grateful for that. So now I'll get back to this morning.
Oh, well, before you get there, I really
Please.
appreciate you saying that. You've been an awesome person to work with. And I know our connection's going to go even beyond MetPro now. We'll be connecting here and who knows where else. And hopefully we'll be able to take that trip out to Napa one day.
Oh, consider you our guest. We have space in the house, or we have another little house you can stay at. And as a matter of fact, I'm so excited because my little house, we're sort of beta testing something this weekend, and we're beta testing a space for a nutritional reset, so where people can come and we stock up. It's a beautiful Craftsman 2-bedroom, 2-bath little house in downtown Napa Valley. And remember, most people come to Napa Valley to drink and eat.
Right.
But I want to make it to where people can come to Napa Valley and nourish themselves, and also go hiking and cycling and doing some of the beautiful things that you can do in the wine country. Because just because it's the wine country, it doesn't mean that you have to go into excess and just destroy yourself. You can do it very mindfully. And you can come to the Napa Valley and have a nutritional reset. You can literally say, hey, listen, I want you, if I am vegan and I enjoy being a vegan and it works well for me, but if you want a lean cuts of meat, or you're a pescatarian and but I would want somebody to consider the idea of going somewhere to reset, because you're only going to eat whole foods rather than processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know,
that idea.
if you know, and it's again, it's less expensive than a hotel. And Napa Valley hotels average between $600 and $800 a night. The rental of this beautiful Craftsman home with Viking range and a chef's kitchen and all that, it rents for like $350 a night, and all you do is pay us for the groceries and we stock it for you. So yeah, it's not about making money. It really is about helping people, because I think a reset was important. I recently did a reset on eating more greens and vegetables and all this and that. And even though it might not have been perfect, it did help me reset a little bit of my trajectory. So I'm happy about that. So I'll tell you more about how it works for my friend who happens to be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and he's 35 years old and he's struggling. I mean, he's really struggling with his health, because he is all in to that baby that, he's built multiple companies by 35, but his mind is constantly thinking. And like him, I thought myself into a world of pain, inflammation, and things like that, because you're always on, and then you become last.
Right. Absolutely. And you spend all this time trying to make money and make a living that even when you get to the age of retirement, you don't have much time to enjoy it. Some don't get any time to enjoy it. So why wait?
He's very concerned about that, and I am concerned for him. And I'm so happy he called the other day. He says, "Hey, man, I got to do something. I think I'm mentally there. I think it just finally hit me." Because before, he and I would talk a lot. Because like me, he lost like 80 or 90 pounds before, and just put them back within 6 months or a year, put them back on. And it's so defeating, because I've been through that, and it comes back so fast. And I say now, the work really starts once you shed most of your fat. And what's ironic is most people that have done this multiple times, the fat wants to leave your body and it leaves you, the bulk of it leaves pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
The work starts after that.
Right. Maintenance is the hardest part. Losing the fat is, I'm not going to say it's easy, but
It's not easy, but it's not
maintaining.
it's not as hard as maintenance.
Right.
And because maintenance is a lifelong thing, it doesn't have an end.
Mm-hmm. And that maintenance is still always changing. Our metabolisms are always changing. So that
Oh my
maintenance today
God.
isn't going to be the same in a month. So
I'm
that's
so
where the
I'm
hard part starts.
I'm so annoyed you said that because intellectually I know that's so true now. It's so
Mhm.
true. Oh, it just that's not gonna it's just when I think I got this figured out, it doesn't happen that way.
No, nothing within our bodies is stagnant.
Yeah.
Our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis, but that still always looks different.
Yeah.
So,
So going back to this morning,
yes.
I thought about you because there was a war in my head as to what I wanted to do. And I woke up thinking, you know what? I think I want to go for a run. And from the time I literally got out of bed to the time I got into the kitchen, I was like, because it's it's going to start raining, and then the weather thing, and then I'm looking at it. Okay, it's going to start raining by 10 a.m. I better get out now. Oh, it's already drizzling. Is it going to? I mean, there was a crazy war, and my poor wife walks up to me. She says, "Hey, I got you some raisins," and I'm like, "Hey, just, can you give me some time?" And I was snappy, like, and then I had to apologize later because I had to say I had a battle going on in there, and I'm glad I won because I knew one thing. And I said it to Susan before I even got out the door. I said, I always know that when I'm half to 3/4 miles in, that frown goes upside down every single freaking time.
Yes. Do you ever regret a workout?
I've never regretted one.
You won't. I haven't met anyone that has.
It was intense. I mean, it was, and I've always heard people say that. I've always heard people, and I've always thought, I don't struggle with it that much. I don't struggle with it. But I think it's because before I would just not do something. I would just kind of not do it. But staying with it and getting out the door is part of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yep.
the whole talking yourself into the literally having the conversation with yourself that this is really what you need, because none of us need to be stagnant. None of us need to be, we're not wired. Are any of us wired to sit around?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel
Yeah, I
like
don't,
we shouldn't be. Our
yeah,
bodies are meant to do so many amazing things. So why would they be built to just sit around?
yeah, because I mean, I guess if we look at it evolutionarily, we weren't, I don't, thank God I don't own a recliner, but it was not something we were meant to sit in. We were not meant to sit in a recliner. We were not built to sit in a recliner. Because somebody made it, we made it comfortable and it keeps us from moving as much. But I think that's the slippery slope, is that our environment is made to sit, not to stand.
Right. Everywhere you look, your desk. Now they make standing desk, but for the longest time, that did not exist.
Yeah.
Couches are made super comfortable. The only time you should really lay down and rest is in your bed. Get some good sleep. That's what you need to focus on.
Can you talk a little bit about sleep? Because that's one thing that I know it's a big topic out there right now, and I'm so grateful that that is a big topic out there right now.
Mhm.
Because how much does sleep affect performance? I mean, clearly you're a runner, or not clearly, you've told me you're a runner, and I imagine that when you go out and you do a race or you do anything of any endurance, if you don't get a good night's sleep, it affects that, right?
Absolutely. Sleep is something that needs to be prioritized, just like your nutrition. Training needs to fall under sleep. If you're not sleeping well, your body's not going to recover. When you're not sleeping well, your hunger hormones are often elevated. Even after you've had a meal, your body is still signaling that you're hungry because there's been a disconnect with the hunger hormones because your sleep is off. Your stress level is also harder to manage when you haven't gotten a good night's sleep. When your stress is elevated, that means your stress hormone cortisol is elevated. And when that's elevated for long periods, fat burning is almost impossible. So sleep can really just affect everything. And it also affects your mood and how you perceive things, how you think about things. Something that typically wouldn't set you off might really irritate you just because you didn't get enough sleep. Your memory's not as great. So literally everything in our life kind of leads back to sleep. I know as a mom, when my toddler's not sleeping, the next day my appetite is different. I don't feel like working out. I'm more irritable with her and my husband, and I just have less patience overall. And I know it's because I didn't sleep. When I sleep well, I'm a happy-go-lucky person, you know? And I'm sure we all feel that way sometimes, Sleep isn't always going to be perfect, but it's something that you should continuously work on, like having a consistent bedtime routine, waking up at the same time each day, even on weekends. That just helps set your circadian rhythm, and that makes your sleep quality much better. You get more deep sleep, and all of those things can really just impact how the rest of your day goes.
I love how Andrew Huberman talks about, taking in that morning light. And I'm
Super.
I was gonna say I'm so jealous of you because you have that warm weather or going out at sunrise and just watching that sun come up. It's so healthy and just wonderful to set things right. It's cold, gloomy, and all this and that. But Andrew Huberman is the first one to say, still go out there and take in that light. It's going to take you 2 or 3 times as long to take in that light. But I have to admit, I'm not very good at doing that consistently. And I want to improve on doing that because I have done it. And I do see the difference in my sleep when I take in light in the morning, and also when I take in light as the sun is setting. And it really does a beautiful job setting that circadian rhythm. And man, it's butter. I mean, you sleep like a baby.
It also helps regulate your cortisol response too. So when we wake up in the morning, our cortisol naturally starts rising to help get our day started. And that natural sunlight just kind of helps get that process going. And then when it's dark in the evening, that's kind of when our cortisol levels out, drops to a normal amount. And the less like blue light and screen light that you're getting, the better that cortisol stays lower versus if you're doing an intense workout at night or watching like a crime show, your cortisol spikes because you're getting amped up. You're creating that stress response. And so that can disrupt your sleep. So that morning light, super important. And also just setting the tone in the evening as well, just to create a good hormone response to help with things too.
I'll tell you one thing that has really helped me, and I've learned it by surrounding myself with people like you, is that now I'm able to have my last meal right around sunset. So almost before it's dark over here. So I'm literally eating my last meal earlier than I have before, because usually I'm a binge eater at night, like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. That's literally when I would go into my binge eating. And it would dysregulate everything. It would dysregulate my sleep. It would just wreak havoc on me. And now I think I credit that to that circadian rhythm, is that now I kind of feel wonderful when I'm eating appropriately during the day, when my body needs it. Then I have my dinner right when the sun is setting, to where I feel full enough. And then I'm able, because I'm in bed sometimes I'm in bed before 8 p.m.
Oh my gosh, lucky you.
Yeah, and I get that for people that have, I mean, I consider
That's such a good thing though.
I've paid the price. I've raised 4 kids. My wife and I have been dysregulated for many years, so now we get to enjoy a different stage. We've paid our dues.
For sure.
But I think you, more than anybody, would understand how valuable and wonderful it is to be able to say, hey, it's 7:55 or 8:15. I'm already going down, because your body is naturally, we're learning to dim our lights after sunset. We start, if we start turning on lights, we don't turn them on full bright. We turn them on a little less. And you really go into that it's a natural state that our bodies crave. And and it's wonderful. I also, have a great appreciation for people that are shift workers and work in the middle of the night, because those people, as I was, because I owned a company that was ran on graveyard shift. I did that for 8 years, and you're sacrificing a lot, and a lot meaning within years of lifespan, because it really wreaks havoc on your internal well-being.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go into the scale topic, because that a lot of us who struggle with weight, and I'm going to have to imagine mostly us that are struggling with overweight, because I think if somebody's losing weight, like my wife, and I think you have to be mindful, and I think you should jump on the scale more often than somebody who's like me, because those people are at risk of losing their life. If you start slipping down a slippery slope, you can end up in the ER or much worse. But with that being said, I've always lived and died by the scale, and you and another friend of mine are really trying to help me through that and not make the scale my only my end all be all.
Yep. So I'm glad you brought that up, because so many people rely on the scale. And as you realize, it's not the best indicator of progress. That scale will fluctuate for so many different reasons, and it does not paint the whole picture. The scale is just a number, just like your age. You can act as young or as old as you want. It doesn't matter what that number is. Same thing with the scale. And oftentimes I have clients that the scale may not move much, but we often look at photos and we do measurements, and I ask them how their clothes are fitting and how their energy is responding. And when we look at those things, everything else is pointing to their progress, but the scale hasn't moved and they're still stuck on that number. But when I start, putting their photos side by side and showing them the significant changes that are happening with their body transforming, that's when the light bulb kind of clicks and they're like, oh, you're right. The scale is so deceiving. I call it the biggest liar all the time, because I see it every day where people are so hyper-focused on that number. But when we really start focusing on body composition and losing body fat, because weight can mean several different things. It can mean body fat, it can mean muscle, it can mean bone loss or water loss. So it's really important to specify what kind of weight you want to lose. And I would say if you focus on losing fat, building lean muscle, you're going to see your body transform in the most positive way, and the scale may not always reflect that. If you take 1 pound of fat and replace it with 1 pound of muscle, well, that pound is still there, but the mass and density that it takes up in your body is completely different.
Well, let me not say that I fully connect. Let me just say that you're moving the needle. You keep moving the needle, and every time, and I need to hear this. I need to hear it, and I need to hear it over and over and over. And I have to imagine that it's similar for a lot of listeners, that you have to hear this over and over and over for it to connect, because, again, I've been at this battle of losing weight for a long time, 30 something, getting close to 40 years of the battle of losing weight. And I have not won the battle. I'm just a work in progress. And I just made a decision to want to live a better quality of life and be around for my grandkids, who I'm just really enjoying. And I don't want to be around my grandkids as a spectator. I don't care to do that. I want to be around my grandkids as a participant. And I'm going to send you, I wish I could put it up right now, but I'm not that technologically savvy. It would just be very chunky. I can get there, but it'd be very chunky to get there. But, I went on my hike yesterday, and with my son, we do Tuesdays and Friday hikes, and that's something we do when we get deep into conversation. And some of my favorite times during the week happen during these hikes. But what we'll do is we'll incorporate, during our hike, let's get 100 push-ups out, either in sets of 10s or sets of 20s. And he recorded me doing them, and I recorded him. And what I got to tell you is, it was fascinating that, my son's very svelte, very strong. and we looked the same in the way that we were doing push-ups, and the volume of push-ups that we were cranking out 20, 30 push-ups at a time, and the cadence of those push-ups and all that. And I'm only 14, 15 months removed from what I thought was the other side of the coin. And it's fascinating how fast the body will heal if you just lean in rather than give up.
100%. And I saw your video of those push-ups.
Oh, you did?
Great. Yeah, I saw you knocking them out.
I was
I saw
proud
it
of
on
that.
Instagram. Yeah, I was very proud of you. I
Wow.
think I even put an emoji with like the flexing arm.
I did
I was
see that. I'm
proud. I was
sorry.
like, look
I
at
did
Jerry
see
doing
that.
push-ups.
I did see that. Yeah, that was so much fun. I put that on my Instagram that I've finally started an Instagram account. But it's only with the premise of, God, if somebody can see, and people that know me and have seen these ups and downs over the last 20, 30 years, they're like, again, if you're in your 50s and you're struggling, and if it's somebody like Coach Amber that can just listen to you, and then you can have this encyclopedia of knowledge, because we need it. We can't do this alone. I always find that, Coach Amber, I survive in some of these crazy hikes that I do because of the people I run into. I mean, I've been on plenty of hikes where if I didn't run into somebody, I wouldn't have made it. So seriously, because I
I'm
like,
glad you run into those people.
but I'm glad, but I like kind of extreme things, and I set up extreme things because I know I'm going to run into people. I don't go do trails where I don't run into people. I do trails where I run into people, because if I were to do, I don't find myself to be a person that prepares to get ready. I find myself to be a person that dives in 2 feet first once I make a decision, right? But for a lot of people, I think 50% of the people prepare to tip their toe in the water and try something, and that's where I'd like to ask you, what would you say to somebody who is not dives in head first, somebody who tips their toe in the water? What would you say to somebody like that when it comes to either movement or nutrition or both?
I would say whether you dive in or dip your toe in, just getting in there and trying something and doing it is going to take you far. Because once you dip your toe in, you'll realize that the water's not that cold or not that hot. And you'll realize that so many great things can come from it. And then you might take the jump, or you might just slowly get in there, and that's okay. Everyone has their own pace. And that's what I love too about nutrition and fitness, is everyone has their own pace, their own metrics, and how things work. So like for some, you might just dive right in because you get a little taste of it. Others may still be hesitant. And I get that hesitancy because there's so much information, or should I say misinformation, on the internet, social media. There's so many influencers out there promoting certain nutrition strategies that aren't necessarily true or evidence-based. And so, I get why people are hesitant. But at the same time, it's like, what do you have to lose in improving your health? You have everything to gain.
Everything to gain.
Everything.
And maybe I'll pivot a little bit, because I become a super big proponent of whole foods, of less packaging, less in a box, less. And by the way, I also want to say that I also see the place that well engineered supplements have when it comes to endurance and performance. I do see that. I didn't when I started this journey. When I started this journey, because I was all in, I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna. I tried to do Mount Whitney all on what do you call it, on whole foods, even though I don't consider a flour tortilla a whole food. No, yeah, was it a flour tortilla? No, yeah, I think it was a flour tortilla. That was the most engineered thing I was eating, but it was almond butter and bananas. And that was, my buddy said that was a little too heavy on the stomach to try to process all that, flour, almond butter, and banana. It was too heavy. So I'm learning that, something a little bit more engineered, even if vegan, would have been probably a lot more easier to process than something that heavy on such a straining, because I had a pretty heavy backpack on to boot.
Right.
So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
It's
I
okay. You're realizing how everything kind of has its place. Even if it's not a whole food item, certain things can still fit into your lifestyle as long as you're utilizing it correctly and putting it to use, such as, energy gels. There are vegan ones out there. There's whole food options out there. You can make your own. Like I have clients that refuse to use gels, so we resort to whole food items. You just have to utilize it the right way and know how to put it together where it's, not going to sit heavy on your stomach. Sometimes it takes some trial and error, you know, oftentimes more error than anything, but you figure
one
out
of the
what.
one of the questions I have to jump in real quick because one of the questions you asked me is every time I go on something long, you always ask me how did you feel? How did you constantly check in with how did that feel? If I think I did a 15-hour hike one day and I was eating oatmeal and just eating some of these foods and you wanted to know how they made me feel. But then I changed from oatmeal to something else towards the end, and it landed. Oh, I changed from oatmeal to something that had beans in it, and you were like, "Ooh, that that was a little heavy."
Yeah. So I always ask, how does that make you feel? Or how did you feel after that? Because a lot of people don't even really pay attention to how certain items make themselves feel. But when you start being more mindful about it, you'll realize what your body responds best to, what feels best, especially when you're going out on a long hike like that. You don't want to be weighed down, but you want to have sufficient energy. So you want to make sure you're fueling well.
Yeah,
So that's why I ask about the beans. They can cause a little more GI issues compared to oatmeal.
yeah. It was fascinating. It was fascinating to learn that there are things that burn well.
Exactly. And everyone's metabolism is so different also that some people burn through their fuel much quicker than others. Some people can get away with doing the bare minimum and making it through, while others just burn through their energy so much quicker and they require a bit more. So that's where it gets fun trying to figure out, what each person needs. Like for you, I was working with you on how to fuel that way you can make it through the duration that you were going. It wasn't that you were trying to do it fast, but we had to give you sustained energy. Otherwise, you were probably going to be really hungry or you were just going to be really tired and not be able to finish.
Yeah, and nothing feels. And I think it's important. I think it's important for people to take their bodies to a place where they. I think I don't know if this is for everybody, but I think there's value in knowing how far one's body can go. And when the body runs out, I mean, I think I don't want anybody to do anything dangerous, but I think there's value in knowing, okay, I have the threshold of walking 2 miles today. And then tomorrow I can go to 2.5. But if you can walk 2 miles, can you on Saturday go 4 and seeing what that does and how does your body respond to that? Do you get more blisters? Are you wearing the right socks? There's so many little minute details that go into movement and endurance. I mean, there is so many little things. And I love something that I learned not long ago. And it was a quote by Muhammad Ali, which he said it's not the hill, it's the pebble in the shoe.
Mhm.
And I think all of this endurance, especially endurance, I think has so much to do with that. That it's usually the little thing, the ones that put you out of the race or out of the game, more than the big thing. And that's where you came in and have so beautifully changed my mind about how little I know. You think you got this you're because there's this thing called common sense, but common sense doesn't apply if you don't teach me.
Right. Absolutely. You don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of unknown out there.
Yeah, yeah. And when it comes to performance, most of us are lay people who are just wanting to get out there, have some fun, and move our bodies. And then when you're a curious individual, when you see that your body can do more than you thought it could, then you want to explore a little more and a little more and a little more. And I got to tell you, it's the most fun.
hmm It's
It's
so great seeing what your body can do. And if you never push that limit, you'll never know. and you'll never really experience kind of what that joy is like when say you went 2 miles today and you hit 4 tomorrow. Like, that's a huge progression in the right direction. And if you never tried, you would never know what you were capable of. And not only in the fitness and nutrition side of things, but anything in life. If
Oh,
you
you
never
talk
try, you'll
about
never know.
it's a good dopamine hit, man. It really is.
It is. Yep. And it's a good one.
And it's a good one. It's a good one. It moves you in the right direction, right? When you're getting dopamine off of that, then
Exactly.
then you want more. And that leads us into mindset. I mean, what do you say to somebody that wants to get started, but they're not there yet? You know, I'm finding that one of the biggest challenges I've had is meeting people where they're at.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's super important. Everyone's at a different stage in life. And when it comes to mindset, if you can just be open-minded about it, your mindset will naturally start to shift in a more positive direction. Some may shift slower than others, but if you start focusing on what you're putting in your body, your recovery, your sleep, your hydration, all of those little things, and just working on a mindset that will allow you to enjoy the process, life in general gets better because you're not just dwelling on, not hitting a certain weight on the scale, not accomplishing a certain mileage. Like, your mindset means everything. As an athlete, if you're constantly thinking about the negatives or thinking about what you can't do, your body's going to do what your mind is telling it to do. But mind over matter, your body can do a whole lot more if your mind just lets it. When you're out there running, yeah, you're going to get tired, you're going to get fatigued, your muscles are going to start to give out, but if you keep pushing and mentally clear this, your legs will keep going. If you're feeling well, you can run all day. Our bodies are amazing. They can do so much. You just have to believe it here, like 1,000%.
I got to tell you, there are times that I go out there. So there are times that I go out there and I feel so good that I literally believe I can run all day. There are times that I'm just like, I mean, there have been times, and again, I just want people to understand that this is coming from a guy that was over 80 pounds heavier, 14, 15 months ago, and hardly able to walk to the end of the block because of two lower back bulging discs. And I was like screaming to the doctors to please do surgery because I was in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
But then something hit me where I realized that maybe if some of the weight came off, some of that pressure would release from my lower back. And lo and behold, I worked through that process. And this is not one size fits all. And I'm not recommending that anybody do anything that I did, and check with your doctors and make sure that you're doing the right thing for yourself, because I'm just sharing my experience. But I'll tell you, for me, instinctively, it was, if I can just get some of the fat off of my body, I can possibly move more. And to get the fat off my body, I had to change the way that I was eating and what I was putting in. And I knew I was binging. So I knew that I was using food as my preferred drug of choice to calm my nerves in the end of the day. And then there's that hamster wheel where it's a slippery slope and you just keep growing and growing and growing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I got to tell you that I am so amazed by what our bodies can do, that the next video that I'll do, and I'll send it to you. The next video that I'll do is I like doing back bridge push-ups. Where you do a back bridge and you do push-ups where you touch your head to the ground while you're on reverse. And if you were to tell me a year and a half ago, Jerry, you're going to be doing not only push-ups but back bridge push-ups, I tell you, you're crazy. And those days were long gone. So this machine that we all have on loan, because it's borrowed, we don't get to keep this forever, deserves our not just our our attention, but it deserves our love and our care and our nurture, because it's the only one we got. Once it's gone, it's gone. And then a lot of times I fall back into a lot of shame about, God, how much I've abused it and misused it, and this and that. And that's something that we all have to work through too, because you have to get to the place where you really love yourself enough. You have to get to a place where you love those around you enough to care deeply about yourself. You have to,
1000%.
yeah, you have to love them enough to care deeply about yourself, because once you care deeply about yourself, then I find that the example is where the real love radiates. Is, if I do this more often, I gotta tell you, my 30-year-old son hikes because I hike. Which boggles my mind. If I would have suggested to him, hey, let's go on a hike, it just doesn't work that way. It only works because I go on hikes. Whether anybody goes with me or nobody goes with me, people know what I'm doing. But now people go on hikes with me. And the point that I'm trying to make is, how much of this do you agree or disagree is who we become in the whole scheme of things? And the only thing that I find we can change is ourselves.
Absolutely. 100%. And we're the only ones that can change ourselves. And I have busy parents that will say all the time, they're like, yeah, I'd do anything for my children. I'd die for them. I'm like, okay, that's great and all, but are you willing to ask yourself the hardest question? Are you willing to be healthy for them so that you can live as long as possible for them and be active with them? You don't want to be sitting, at their sports practice, and instead of participating, you're just sitting there watching because you can't move, or, you're in the hospital because you have health complications because you have heart disease. That's the question I always ask people when they're like, yeah, I'm willing to do anything for this. Well, why aren't you willing to do anything for yourself?
Yeah.
If you take care of yourself, you can take care of everyone else a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, my son's wife, I mean, she's a good example of that. She has a very successful real estate practice. And, she just had my youngest grandson about 8 months ago. But, just a couple of months ago, she's like, I have to, for my mental well-being and for my family and all that. I mean, she gets up at 4:30 in the morning. By 5 a.m., she's at Pure Bar or doing some crazy workout. Not only doing that, she's actually gotten certified to teach it. But that's somebody with an insanely busy life with 2 kids and all that. And the only way she can do what she does and play at that high level is by taking care of herself at that level. And for those people that I know there are a lot of people that can't and don't have, somebody at home that can watch the kids while they're going to a gym and things like that. So I bleed for that. But for those that have those options, I would encourage them to try to work through it. And for people like that don't have those options, maybe it is getting up in the morning early before the kids get up, and just spend that half hour. If it's not an hour, maybe it's a half hour. If it's not half hour, maybe it's 15 minutes. But you have to get to a place where you give yourself that, because you truly deserve it.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, even 10, 15 minutes a day is better than zero. And, if it's important to you, you'll find a way to make it happen. Like, for anyone that says they don't have time, if it's important, you will find the time. I don't have someone to watch my little one while I go to the gym, so I work out with her. I have her in the room with me, and now she actually mimics me and tries to work out as well. I got her some little fake dumbbells that she lifts with me, and I also realize that I'm setting a good example for her too. I'm putting this in her life early. That way, she can set herself up for success. I don't want her to wait until she's an adult, where a lot of people never got exposed to it, and so they just don't know. I
My
want her to be
my
fully.
my 5-year-old granddaughter's one of her favorite quotes is bend and extend, because she hears her mom saying bend and extend on her classes.
I love that. It's so funny, and they pick up on things very quickly, and you have to set a good example for them. My little one, she now knows all of the Peloton instructors. She'll point at the TV and tell me which instructor she wants to watch.
Wow.
And so I'll usually pick the one that she likes, and she always tells me, she's like, I'm getting strong, mommy.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I just love that.
Well, funny. My wife likes to keep a tidy house and everything organized and everything in its place. And I said, honey, I appreciate that you like to keep things looking really good like that for us in our home, and she loves her space. I said, but we're getting to an age where having dumbbells around the living room is not a bad thing. I'll put them organized, but it's a good thing. And she's finally allowed that, and we have a coffee table that literally has hidden little wheels, so we can push the coffee table away and all of a sudden lay the mats, and it becomes a workout studio. And we've made the space very conducive to busting out a workout anytime we feel like it. And it's just, I think it's the gift that we're realizing that we're giving our family is by taking care of ourselves. And now they're, like you just beautifully said, is they're doing it more.
Right. Exactly. Love that. Glad you guys set up your living room that way. It's super important. You got to create the environment that you want to be in.
I love it. Well, for anybody that's listening, if they wanted to get a hold of you, what would you say is the best way? And whatever you say, we can also add to the show notes. But I'd love for anybody that knows me, for them to get to know you, because you're such a wealth of information, and you are a person that can definitely, if you're a snow skier, if you're a snowboarder, if you're a cross-country person, if you're a hiker, if you're an endurance runner, if you are a basketball player, if you just want to improve your walks or your time spent out in the pool or things like that, to get a better experience out of mobility through nutrition, and a brilliant coach that you are, how would they get a hold of you?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll send you a URL as well that you can add to the notes. But if they wanted to set up a free consultation, I'd love to chat with anyone that's interested. But they can book directly on my calendar if they go to metpro.co, and that's co/coach-amber.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. So I'm gonna make I promise that I'm going to find a way to see you in person sometime in 2024. We are
Absolutely.
going to go to Florida once or twice.
Please do. Let us
If
know if
you
you're ever over here. We'll go to Disney or something. We'll go do
that
something fun.
oh God, with my granddaughter, that would be a dream, because she loves Disney.
Same. My little one, we got season passes and we've gone the last 3 weekends, and we'll be going back this weekend. And she gets so excited. We're like, do you want to go see Mickey and Minnie? And she like jumps and screams and runs around the house. Like, it's so much fun.
Well, and Orlando's a nice place to run. I had some great runs out there, and I had some amazing runs out in that what's it called, Honeymoon Island. That was
Oh, love that place.
so beautiful.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the space with me today. This was a treat, and I really, really appreciate it. I hope you'll do it with me again.
Of course. It was my pleasure, and it was so much fun. I enjoy every conversation we have together. So you just let me know when you want to do it again.
I love it. You're amazing.
You're amazing, Jerry. You're an inspiration. Seriously. Keep doing what you're doing, because you never know who you're actually touching out there, and it's going to make a difference in somebody's life.
That's the bottom line. That's it. That's the premise.
We'll keep rocking it. You're awesome.
Bye, Coach.
Bye, Jerry. Have a good one.
Bye.